The spiritual practice of solitude. A path to relinquishing your false self.
The spiritual practice of solitude means departing from people to enter into a people-free space and time to be alone with yourself, and with God. Virginia Thomas, Ph.D. describes solitude as a basic human need. As a human need, if we starve ourselves of it, we will suffer harm. Solitude, or being alone with oneself, is a sign of healthy emotional development. Conversely, a soul too long deprived of solitude will suffer psychic lacerations, the accumulation of which will render it emotionally unhealthy. People are the enemy of aloneness, and therefore the objects to be temporarily isolated from. Solitude is not isolation from external activity or sound. Engaging in an activity alone is an effective way to practice solitude. Picture the lone golfer walking 18 holes while deeply reflecting upon his life, creation, and scripture. The lone surfer communing with bulging waves while contemplating what the sights and sounds tell him about God. The paddleboarder touching the face of God in the wonder of the waters beneath him. Or the lone hiker taking in the poetry of rustling vegetation and the art of gorgeous landscapes. Practicing solitude turns your communications inward and upward. You can allow yourself to be completely immersed in your activity as a way to focus on your private internal self. However, to get the most benefit from solitude, you must temporarily push people away, but also bring God in by focusing on His activity in your life, and the world around you. Solitude can also be effectively engaged in, by agreement, with another person, such as a couple hiking quietly through the woods, and then praying together on a distant precipice overlooking a beautiful vista. The goal of private solitude is to connect with yourself, while connecting yourself to God. The goal of mutual solitude is to connect with yourself, while triangulating a connection between you, another person, and God. Communicating with people is also a human need that we should not neglect, but it exacts a price in the form of constant distraction and disassociation with one's own thoughts, and God's thoughts. You might say that too much time reacting with people has a mounting toxic effect on the mind and spirit, because of the heavy demand it places upon our attention, so much so that we cannot hear ourselves, or God, over all the other voices around us. Solitude offers a detoxification period, a period of renewal from which we return more ready to engage people. Healthy humans need a good balance between solitude and social interaction, but this need is rarely recognized, and even more rarely satisfied. When our need for solitude is not met, an uncomfortable sense of inexplicable anxiety sets in. You might end up feeling irritable, overwhelmed, or drained. These sensations are the signs of a sick soul crying out for the medicine of solitude. Different individuals have varying needs for solitude, and finding the right amount that aligns with your well-being is essential for leading a fulfilling life. Through solitude you reposition yourself from a participant in creation, to an observer, and in so doing you naturally become awakened to the wonder, beauty, marvel, and machinations of life. Only then can you fully absorb the human experience with all its pains and joys, triumphs and losses, splendor and gloom, glory and shame. These realities are continually pelting us, but they are easily repelled by the canopy of busyness over our lives. In solitude we can better tune into our intuitions, which is our spiritual function that perceives divine communications. Solitude, as practiced in the Christian discipline, is not an emptying of ourselves, it is refilling ourselves with revelation, divine perspective, supernatural energy, peace, and understanding. It brings us back into harmony with the mind and purposes of God for us, for mankind, and therefore into unity with our true selves. Our culture boasts about the benefits of busyness without warning us of the toxic effects that come with it. One toxic symptom is an inability to enter solitude without feeling anxious because we aren't receiving constant external stimulation. Another symptom is that the cyber world draws us into a false reality that distorts our view of relationships and life. The toxicity of busyness makes it difficult to be present with each other. A research article published in Computers in Human Behavior in September 2021 cites a growing body of research describing a new psychological disorder created by social media, called fear of missing out, or FOMO. This disorder causes depression, anxiety, and neuroticism. FOMO triggers compulsive use of social platforms, driven by the need to get in touch with others, or to develop social competence. FOMO creates a state of busyness addiction as borne out by a study at the University of Virginia in 2014, which found that most people preferred giving themselves mild electrical shocks to sitting in the silence of their own thoughts for 15 minutes. When solitude is neglected, we might find it difficult to be comfortable for long periods without the distraction, engagement, or affirmation from others, says Dr. Tara Well. The impact of FOMO is it might cause you to stay in situations, or make life choices that aren't good for you in the long run, such as a job that's making you miserable or a toxic relationship. Other studies show that time alone is deeply nourishing to the mind. Some benefits are increased creativity, the ability to concentrate and think deeply about a decision or problem, a calming effect on our daily moods, reducing our emotional arousal level so we get calmer, and it helps us process challenging emotions we've been avoiding. Time alone is also deeply nourishing to the spirit as follows. We get in touch with who we are when productivity and recognition fall away, and God is the only one watching us. It improves our marriages by isolating us from the distractions that inhibit growing together and bonding. When we fall in love, we naturally seek solitude with the one we love. In the Bible, the Song of Songs gives us a glimpse of lovers who want to be alone so they can express the full range of their love for one another. Song of Songs 2 verse 10 says, "My beloved speaks and says to me, Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away." Solitude is a formative place that gives God's Spirit time and space to do deep work. When no one is there to watch, judge and interpret what we say, the Spirit often brings us face to face with hidden motives and compulsions. Jesus modeled solitude for us in his 40 days being tempted in the wilderness in Mark 1 verse 12, which reads, "At once the Spirit sent him out into the desert, and he was in the desert 40 days, being tempted by Satan." Many other voices pull at us, seeking to own and name us, but in solitude we learn what it is to distinguish between the voice of God and the voices of the world. This function of discernment is spoken of as discernment of spirits in 1 John 4 verse 1, which reads, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, for many false prophets have gone out into the world." Consistent practice of solitude frees us from the need to be occupied and stimulated. Adherence to the practice of solitude will slowly move us away from letting the world squeeze us into its mold, as described in Romans 12 verse 2, which says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Solitude can liberate you from constantly living your life in reference to other people. It will develop your spiritual hearing so you can better listen to God. It keeps you centered on what really matters, and helps you keep the main thing, the main thing. In conclusion, solitude is not a luxury, it is a necessity for developing the healthy, holy self that God intended you to be. Therefore, love yourself, by being with yourself, alone.
That book, his book, their Bible, warns them that I prowl about like a lion seeking souls to devour. and it is true. It is my delight to dismember their spirits, gnaw upon their conscience, and consume their hearts. Yes, I frustrate, exhaust, derail, and defeat them in their attempts to become righteous. I am dedicated to denying them solitude, reflection, and contemplation with their spirits and the Holy One. My weapons are many, and I attack on many unexpected fronts. They try to enter solitude to defeat me, but I will not yield that ground. I have helpers as numerous as the stars to help me keep watch over these Christians, so that we know when one of them is attempting to enter solitude and commune with the Holy One, allowing us to implement measures to prevent them. They are engaging in mutual solitude, and it is strengthening their marital bond, but will not allow it. Go to them, you children. Interrupt their intimate conversation. Yes, yes. Oh, what a powerful weapon are their children. He has been consistently dedicated to keeping solitude with the Almighty through Lectio Divina and Visio Divina, but I shall launch my most powerful weapon against him. The telephone. An exquisite weapon of interruption and frustration. I shall drown him in calls from his work, his family, his church, and even telemarketers. Solitude will be washed from his intentions. Oh, I love this technological weapon for its many uses. They have spent much time in solitude and serving others, so I must derail them. They are vacationing, so I will cause her to forget her birth control pills, and I will provoke many amorous nights. Later she will suffer a problematic pregnancy, which will inflict financial strain and new marital tensions that snuff out any interest in solitude with the Holy One. Neither husband nor wife comprehends their own fault in their decaying relationship. They have considered solitude as a way to reflect upon spiritual solutions. I will numb their frustrated minds with addictive television programming so they never take the time for self-reflection or the spiritual solitude that might lead to unity. But they will feel as if they are practicing solitude in their quiet TV gazing, but actually they will be hypnotized and unable to hear the Holy Spirit. Their marriage will become useless to the Almighty. They study the scriptures together and are unified by it. They enter solitude to meditate upon and assemble its words into their lives. But I shall put a stop to both practices by rendering them exhausted, tired, burned out, weary, and full of anxiety. In this state they will neglect solitude, themselves, and each other. It is my delight to attack them in this way, and I have many weapons to inflict this suffering upon them. For them, a colicky baby will do the job. They have a strong marriage and great faith. They have been consistent in the practices of solitude, study, and prayer. But a drunken servant of mine will suffice to cause an automobile accident that will introduce an avalanche of ongoing distractions to interrupt their troublesome spiritual practices. She was a dedicated Christian woman until I sent one of my dark handsome servants to seduce her and then break her heart. Now she seeks chemical relief from the pain of loss and betrayal. Her chemically induced solitude is but a foggy stupor where my demonic hordes may seduce and degrade her further. An exhausting move, with numerous problems, to a new house, pressure to sell the old house, and adjust to new jobs, will easily interrupt any notions of practicing spiritual solitude for some time, and put their relationship on the back burner as well. They are prideful, and it matters to them what people think of them. An invitation to join a very exclusive country club will bolster their pride. Excessive time spent on the golf course will derail his habit of solitude. Regular tennis and spa visits with the wives will derail hers. She is prideful, and it is important to her to prove she can be as successful as any man. A full travel schedule on the company jet, back-to-back meetings day after day, and a 14-hour workday will make her forget all about her practice of solitude, her marriage, and their children.